All right, so today we're working questions up to 26, looking for the area of a trapezoid. So here, number 18, I'm going to use this for space, just for us to review, for us to learn. So let's see a trapezoid. What a trapezoid is two sides that are parallel, not exactly the same size, right? They're just parallel. And let me connect these two sides. These two other sides are not going to be parallel. Now, the two sides that are parallel, I'm going to call those bases. So let me label one of them base 1 and base 2. Okay, so just the little number at the bottom is base 1 and base 2. And this should be a height, the distance between the two bases. Sometimes we put it as a dotted line. And then for right now, let me just call it h for height. That's really what I need. The information, I'm going to put question marks for these two sides. They're not really needed. Now, the interesting part of a trapezoid is that imagine I came over and I cut it right in the middle. It creates two trapezoids, right? You guys see the trapezoid on the top, the trapezoid at the bottom. But the interesting part is if the trapezoid on the top, I was to flip it over and place it here, it will look like this. It will fit right there. Again, the trapezoid on the top, if I was to flip it and put it at the side, it looks like that. Now, let me just say that this part right here, this is base 1, right? This side is base 1, right? Remember, I flipped it upside down. And then I'm going to say the height. Now it's h divided by 2. That's going to be this height. Because I cut the height in half. So remember, height divided by 2. Now, what I see here, let me highlight it in green. It's a parallelogram, right? We talked about parallelograms yesterday. So this right here that I see, it's a parallelogram. I'm going to highlight in yellow. Now, I remember for a parallelogram, I treat it like a rectangle. The two measurements that make the 90 degrees, let me come up with black. This length right here, this whole thing, I'm going to call this base 1 plus base 2. Right? That's the whole thing right here, the whole base at the bottom. And then I'm going to say this times height divided by 2. That's exactly what we're going to use for a formula of a trapezoid. Base 1 plus base 2 times height divided by 2. I know if you guys were to Google it, sometimes they say base 1 plus base 2. Let me go here. Plus base 2 times the height. And all of this is divided by 2, which in reality, if you notice, is the same thing. Okay, so let's take a look at our work here. Question number 19. All I need, let me highlight in blue. Let me highlight in blue my two bases. Remember, my two bases are the two sides that are parallel. To find the area of this, I'm going to go 2.4 plus 7.8. Remember, I add the bases and then multiply by 2.9 divided by 2. Just as a recall, first parenthesis base 1 plus base 2. The second parenthesis is the height divided by 2. Now I'm going to use a calculator. I'm going to use a calculator and I get that for my first parentheses, 2.4 plus 7.8, I get 10.2. So right now I just have 10.2 times 2.9 divided by 2. I know 2.9 divided by 2 does give me a short decimal, right? It's 1.45, but what I'm going to do in reality, I'm just going to go, what I'm going to, when I type in, I'm just going to type this whole thing in. I'm just going to go 10.2. So 10.2 times 2.9 divided by 2. That's exactly what I'm going to type in my calculator right now. So 10.2 times 2.9 divided by 2, I get 14.79. I do take a look at my instructions. The instructions said find the area of each. It says nothing about rounding, right? Because it doesn't say round, then I'm not going to round. My answer in this case is 14.79. If it said rounded to the nearest tenth, 14.8. If it says rounded to the nearest whole number, 15. But it says nothing about rounding, so I'm going to type in my whole answer, 14.79. All right, let's take a look at number 20. With blue, let me highlight my two bases, the two sides that are parallel, which is 9 and 4.2. So my first parentheses, let me go 9 plus 4.2. And then my second parentheses, I have 3.1 divided by 2, right? The height divided by 2. I'm literally going to add the two bases. So I'm looking at my first parentheses, 9 plus 4.2. That gives me 13.2. And this I'm going to multiply it by 3.1 and then divide it by 2. So I'm going to type the whole thing in. When I'm going to type it in my calculator, it really will be 13.2 times 3.1 divided by 2. So let's see. I have a calculator. So use a calculator. So 13.2 times 3.1 divided by 2, I get 20.46. My instructions say find the area. It says nothing about rounding, so I'm not going to round. Be careful in the instructions. Now here, my two bases are 2.7 and 7.9. So I'm going to go 2.7 plus 7.9. That's adding the two bases. Whatever I get, I'm going to go 7 divided by 2, right? The height divided by 2. This 8.1 is a number I don't have to use. Okay. Now, when I look at my calculator, 2.7 plus 7.9, I get 10.6. So my first parenthesis is 10.6. I'm going to multiply this by 7 and then divide it by 2. And I get 37.1. One last example here for this type of questions. My bases are 5.5 and 11.9. So let me go 5.5 plus 11.9. Whatever I get to that, I'm going to multiply this by 6 divided by 2. Height divided by 2. Now 5.5 plus 11.9 is 17.4. So again, I'm going to go 17.4 times 6 divided by 2. And that gives me 52.2. All right, so this type of questions, not too bad, right? We know the formula, so we know how to get this. Now let's take a look at 23 to 26. Here we're going to use our formula. It says find the missing measurement, round your answer to the nearest tenth. Okay, so my answer will have one decimal place. Looking at my bases are these two sides that are parallel. That question mark, let me call it X. So I know I have to go X plus 3.8. I have to add my bases, X plus 3.8 times 3 divided by 2. Remember, base 1 plus base 2, that's the first parentheses. The second parentheses is height divided by 2. And I know this is 19.2 because that's my area. Okay, let me solve for X. Now, the parentheses where I have X, let me just leave this as X plus 3.8. The second parentheses, 3 divided by 2, let me call that 1.5. And I know all this is equal to 19.2. All right. For parentheses, let me get rid of 1.5. So let me divide by 1.5. So that gives me x plus 3.8. I wanted the parentheses with x by itself. Now 19.2 divided by 1.5 gives me 12.8. Right now, I'm not running anything yet. It's not my answer yet. Now, to get the x by itself, this plus 3.8, let me move this over minus 3.8. So I get that x is equal to 9. If there are any decimals at your answer, round it to 1 decimal place. All right, let's take a look. Take a look at question number 24. My bases, 0.7 and x. Remember the question mark, I call it x. The two bases are the two sides that are parallel. So I know I have to go 0.7 plus x because I have to add my bases. I have to multiply this to 2 divided by 2. Height divided by 2. You guys can see the height is 2. And this is going to equal to the area. I know the area is 3. So just as a reminder, exactly what I'm doing here, let me put this in red. Base 1 plus base 2, I add the bases. Second parenthesis is height divided by 2, and this is equal to the area. Okay, so let's see anything that I can work with. My first parenthesis, nothing I can do. Right, you cannot combine that. My second parenthesis, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and all this is equal to 3. I'm going to show this right now. Technically, I'm going to divide by 1, the one parenthesis that is worked on. It cancels out. 0.7 plus x is equal to 3, right? Because 3 divided by 1. Now, to get the x by itself, this 0.7, let me move it over as minus. Gotta switch the sign. So minus 0.7. Now, 3 minus 0.7 is 2.3. Good. Let's take a look at number 25. My bases again are the two sides that are parallel. One side is x. Again, the question mark, I call it x. So x plus 2.2, I added the two bases, times 6.2 divided by 2. Remember, height divided by 2. This is equal to the area, which is 31.6. All right, let me work what I can. My first parentheses, x plus 2.2, nothing I can work, nothing I can combine. My second parentheses, 6.2 divided by 2, that is 3.1. And I know all of this is equal to 31.6. Just wanted to work one of the parentheses. Now let me divide both sides by the parentheses I worked. In this case, 3.1. Want to cancel from the left, I want to cancel one of my parentheses. So let me do 3.1 on each side. Again, I want to cancel one of my parentheses. So I get that x plus 2.2, it's equal to, now 31.6 divided by 3.1 is, it's a big number, 10 point, and then according to my calculator is 0.1935484. Now let me go minus 2.2. Notice how my 2.2, I moved it over. So let me just press minus 2.2. According to my calculator, 7.99. So right now, let's see, I have 7.99. There's other numbers, but 99. Had to round it to 1 decimal place. This 9 pushes this 9 over, but because this 9 is at the limit, this 9 pushes this 7. So my answer is x equals 8. Now 26. My two bases are 1.2 and 3. Remember, the bases are the two sides that are parallel. So 1.2 plus 3. The other parentheses, I have to go height divided by 2. So let me go x divided by 2. You guys see how the height I don't know? So we learn in algebra that when we don't know the value of something, we replace it with a letter. So I call that x. And I know this is all equal to 4.2. All right, I should be able to work one of my parentheses. In this case, the first one. 1.2 plus 3 is 4.2. The second parenthesis is x divided by 2. And all of this is equal to 4.2. Let me divide this by 4.2. Reason again is I want to cancel one of my parentheses. So I have x divided by 2 equals 1. Right? 4.2 divided by 4.2 is 1. I want to have the x by itself. The opposite of divide is multiplied. Let me multiply by 2 because I want these 2's to cancel out. And I get that x is equal to 2. Let me zoom out so you guys can see what we did. There you go.